In 2009, a company known for only one game under their belt at the time was releasing a new video game for the DC character Batman, known as Batman Arkham Asylum. With this release, it skyrocketed Rocksteady into the eyes of many, as Arkham Asylum became one of the best and most well-known Batman games out there, and also one of the best superhero games. After that, they continued the trilogy with two more games, Arkham City and Arkham Knight, and then there were two spin-off games. One in 2016 was made by them as a VR game, and one in 2013 was made by the team behind Gotham Knights. Nearly 10 years later, Rocksteady finally returns to the consoles and PCs of gamers with their newest title, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, a 1 to 4 player co-op open-world live service with gear systems and random loot video game where you play the Suicide Squad and have to kill the Justice League. It's an interestingly divisive sounding video game that is a fundamental change from what the studio has done in the past, but I'm here to talk about it today after not only finishing the story, but spending over 20 hours in its world. Let's talk about Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
You shouldn't have done that, Shark. That's Superman.
When it comes to the story and characters of the game, I think this is Rocksteady's strongest asset for any of their games, and with Suicide Squad, it's pretty alright for the most part of the game. The start is pretty strong, but there are points of the game where it's just outright bad. Like, pretty much if I'm being honest, most of the bad is from Act 3, and I'm sure by now you all know those terrible parts, but I won't be spoiling it. From its opening, I was interested in what and why all of the story was happening, and it delivered for most of it. The first encounters with each of the Justice League is excellent, and there's some good story beats with characters. One that surprised me the most was Wonder Woman in the story. I didn't expect her to be so compelling in the game since it's mainly focused on the squad, but she is truly a scene stealer in the game. When it comes to the squad themselves though, those were really the only characters I didn't care about, except King Shark, that big intelligent shark god goofball.
What are you doing, mate?
I'm smiling.
But there wasn't anything about the squad that made me go, let's go kill the Justice League with this gang of misfits. Deadshot just wants to see his kid throughout the whole game and really just sounds like Shirley from Community most of the time in that G.I. Joe episode.
Jeffrey, shame on you! I have 3 kids!
Boomerang is just really there trying to be the comedian of the team, but that doesn't really work when the whole team is trying to be comedians. And Harley is just hanging out, no real motive in the story except maybe she'd like to kill Batman, I don't really know. There just doesn't seem to be enough time in the story for them, even though there should be since they are the playable characters. And even if it's a live service game, I shouldn't have to wait until March or whenever to know maybe more about them. But if we're being honest with what's going down with the live service aspects of this game, I doubt we'll be getting more of these characters since they're going to be adding more characters to the game instead, like the Joker.
I'm the Joker, baby.
There are still things like audio recordings you can earn in the game to know more about the world since Arkham Knight, but that's just not a good defense for, well, if you want to know more, listen to the recordings. I get that, but still, when it's been almost 9 years since Arkham Knight, I'd like to have at least seen cutscenes of either Brainiac's arrival or the Justice League being taken over by him, but I guess that wasn't going to happen. Gameplay for the Arkham trilogy was some of the best in combat for a fighting game like it, and it was so beloved that many games would copy it or improve on it, from games like Mad Max, Shadow of War, and Mordor, and Insomniac's Spider-Man games. But this game's about villains who use guns, so they had to change things, and I would have hoped that they'd be able to improve on gun combat since they did amazing stuff from the Arkham trilogy, and I was pretty much left 50-50 on the feeling. Traversal wasn't half bad, but mainly just stuck with either King Shark or Deadshot as they felt the best, and I also got a feeling that other people have about those characters that it really just reminded me of Prototype and Sunset Overdrive with its traversal. And then ain't no complaint from me, those games are fantastic. But with gunplay, it could be good with certain weapons, but not all. Burst fire weapons were absolute shit, but then guns like snipers were pretty good. I tried to play with controller since they recommended it on PC, but couldn't after the tutorial, so went back to mouse and keyboard, and even though it worked, I had to mess with settings or mess with my finger placement since mouse sensitivity was so bad, and then to have inputs like control and alt being for your traversal just felt weird to me, so I decided to change the slide to a C key after that, just not liking it being my alt. Missions on the other hand were not 50-50 though, and I don't care what anyone says with this game and that it's a live service, but just being the same damn missions on repeat for an over 10-hour campaign is lackluster and stale. Take a van to a point, but be sure to destroy towers while you're at it, defend points of interest while enemies attack them, bring in survivors to a van while enemies attack them, collect data for a van while enemies attack you, and of course kill enemies and destroy little little purple beams so you can destroy bigger purple things. I'm not joking when I say about 80% of the main game is just this, and then a sprinkle of good with the boss fights of the game, which even then they're not all great. I won't get into spoiler territory for them, but once again, with Act 3 of the game, the last two boss fights were just no fun at all for me. They started off strong with the first ones, but fell off really hard with the last two, especially the last one being a repeat of an earlier boss. Are you kidding me? This had to have been one of the worst parts of the experience for me in the game. Plenty of moments where I just had to get away from my desk and just take 5, especially after the first time I realized, holy shit, they're doing the same missions over and over again. And this is coming from someone who plays live service games, or had at least back in the day, games like Destiny and Division being the biggest for me. But Jesus, at least they felt different, even if you had times where you'd replay missions so you got better loot. I just don't feel that same drive to replay these missions for better loot. I don't know how many studios now I know and love were forced to make live service games or live service type games, but Rocksteady sadly is added to the board of companies I love that were made to make a live service game. There's so many examples now of what to do and what not to do with live service games that I feel Suicide Squad had plenty of time to take note of the do's and don'ts. But look, I understand game development is challenging, but also I don't know how to describe this messy game they've released that is dealing with a huge identity crisis, from it trying to do a sequel to the Arkham games, but also try to be hopefully the next Destiny or Fortnite. There's some pros and cons to what they're doing. The pros being every new character and new content added to the game will be free for everyone, except a cosmetics shop and battle pass, but the cons are it's just not a fun enough game to want to play more after you finish the story. Some people will, I'm sure, but that's a select few fans, and even though I'm a fan of Rocksteady, I just won't be sticking around, except for to see if it's going good or anything since release. There just isn't much of anything that makes me want to stay, even with its endgame content, which feels plentiful, but as I said about gameplay, I don't find interest in doing the exact same missions with the exact same enemies and locations every damn time. I get it, it's Brainiac's army, you can't do penguin thugs or whatever, but Christ, it's boring. Even if one of the purple guys is now red and can run fast, that ain't keeping me around. And I don't see how this live service game has a future that goes past a year or even 2 years of content. It's like they had the makings of a decent co-op shooter, but some higher up with a big ass cigar in his mouth said, "Now make it live service or you're fired." From this higher up telling them this, the cosmetics also for this game are just not that good either. From what I've heard, the battle pass will be cosmetics focused, but man, I don't see a need for it. I pre-ordered the deluxe edition and just main Deadshot really, and having the Batman skin for Deadshot, that's all I ever wore, even after unlocking some cosmetics through the Riddler challenges, which appears to be the only way to unlock cosmetics at this time. But if you don't like those, well, you can go to the item shop for some costumes that are pretty lackluster, not even up there with cosmetics for Ubisoft games. And say what you will about Ubisoft's greedy tactics for cool cosmetics, but at least if you bought those, it was like, yeah, this outfit is pretty cool, I guess. The most offensive part about this cosmetic shop though is the different tiers of the costumes. It's something a mobile game would use to reel people in, but not me. I pre-ordered as I said and was given access to classic costumes for the squad, but I soon found out it wasn't even the full costumes for the characters. You got the outfit, but there's 2 more tiers to the costume that have to be bought. And sure, it's at a discounted price, but it's absolute lunacy to not give the full costume for one, and to then expect me and the others who pre-ordered your game to pay an extra $30. And I'm not joking here, but to buy the rest of one of these 4 costumes, it's going to be at least $30 together. So roughly, if I wanted the rest of the costumes for my pre-ordered outfits, I'd have to spend at least almost $100.
What the hell?
Are you fucking for real, Rocksteady? Are you out of your mind? I don't think I've ever felt this screwed over before by a cosmetic ever. It's embarrassing. If I were able to, I would talk about the Battle Pass as well, but as of recording and upload, the Battle Pass is not out for release yet, but I don't think it's going to be anything special though. Let's just try and move on from that travesty and talk about some more good this time with how the game looks and runs. With Arkham Knight, I don't know how those mad people did it, but to this day, it's a beautiful game. I just played it before Suicide Squad, and man oh man, it still holds up. I didn't know it only goes up to 90 FPS on PC though, but I'm sure there's a mod around that can change that. The same goes for Suicide Squad though. It's either 30 FPS or 60 FPS with VSync enabled or disabled, it's up to you, but 60 FPS will do I guess, and compared to other launches under WB Games umbrella, it's a pretty good launch. However, it it had some stumbles right before the finish line, including the addition close to early access release, the nouveau DRM being added. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's to help with anti-cheat, but has been known in the past to mess with game stability like frame rate, and also I don't know if it's true, but apparently it has history in tampering with privacy, which is of course a no-go for everyone. I'm not the most experienced on de nouveau, but if that is true, that is insane to add something with such a checkered past to an always online game. Now for early access though, it was shit. I didn't play day one, but heard servers shut down the day of early access, so really 2-day early access, but since then I've only had one disconnection from servers and that's it. The game runs pretty good. To let you know though, I am running on a bit of a beast of a machine, but was able to check it out on Xbox Series X as well, and runs decent there. I'd say Rocksteady did great with the game, but there's barely any interior locations except main hub areas, and that's a bit disappointing. If you're playing the game, it's usually just outside, never interior encounters, but I guess this is not really a big issue, but just something I noticed from this technical standpoint with the game. It's pretty good, but if anyone is playing this game on a PC with a lesser graphics card from mine, I'm on a 4080, do let me know how it plays, as if it's worse on any other graphics cards, that's pretty shit to hear. Aside from graphics and PC running, facial animation is a standout. For games I've played before with really good animation on characters, I'm very impressed with how this looks, especially in cutscenes. King Shark looks excellent on that, and everyone else is just top notch with that stuff. Hat on the back and round of applause to Rocksteady. When I was just playing that game from time to time, I'd just be saying, damn, that is a good facial animation.
So, figure out who we're killing yet? Oh, fuck.
The future for this game is going to be rough. It was from the moment the game was announced, but there are still going to be people still playing this game after launch. But that really won't be a big group, unless the future content is crazy. But I'm not here to talk about that stuff. I'm talking about the now for the game, and the now is just not a good look for its future. Sure, post-content, most of it will be free, excluding the Battle Pass's premium tier, but if it's going to be more of the same from the campaign and side missions, then I don't want a part of it. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a very mixed bag for me. If I were to compare it to a mixed bag of something, it would be like those bean-bozzled beans. But about 80% of the time I kept getting the worst tasting ones, but 20% of the time I'll get a tutti frutti bean. A story that starts strong but ends weak, gameplay that plays fun 50-50 of the time but with repetitive missions that become a bore, a live service that makes the game depressing to play through knowing Rocksteady's history, and last but not least, a game that just doesn't seem to have an identity, switching it up every 10 minutes to either remind us it's a live service game or it's the bare bones of what could have been an okay at best Suicide Squad Rocksteady game. Then I'm just shocked no one who was a higher up ever said, we're cancelling this to a single player Superman game instead. That's got a cosmetics shop like Ubisoft does. Thank you everyone for watching. This video was a tough one to talk about. 2024 has already been off to a pretty good start this year, but can't always have games that knock it out of the park. This game was a real miss, and I hope and pray that Rocksteady is able to move on from this game quickly and work on something new, especially with WB's success from Hogwarts Legacy last year, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Just hopefully not over 8 years to wait and see. Rocksteady is such a great studio, and I'll be damned to see them go out from this game. Here's hoping they've got something cooking real good, and again, thanks for watching everyone, and be sure to like and subscribe also for new videos really soon. Thanks for watching, it's appreciated.